Good morning, and welcome everybody. It is lovely to see you here at Magic in Mind. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham. I am your host. For today, we are going to be diving into our magic for the week ahead. We're going to be looking at the magic of the sage. This is our last deep dive into the magic of the sage. We're going to be looking at the potential of the sage when the power of the sage is balanced, when we have mastery of our sage self. We're going to be looking at the planetary movements for this week. So this is the movements of the planets through the runic wheel. So looking at which runes are particularly powerful for us at the moment and how we can work with them. And then we're going to be doing some mini readings at the end. So that's our stay and play session. And what I do is I select 6 runes for us to work with. And my system has gone horribly wrong this month. I don't know how it's gone wrong, but I appear to have duplicated some of the runes. So I've got a little selection of runes that we could work with today for our 6, but I'm also really interested in the runes that you have. So when we get to the stay and play session, and I'll let you know when that is, please do share the rune that you're working with at the moment, whether you are working with that as your rune of the day. Perhaps if you've just started out with your rune work, it's a really nice thing to do, to draw a rune for each day, and you can look at my website for lots of information about each of those runes and how you can work with them in meditations, etc. You might be working with a rune for the week. Nice when you're starting to deepen into your connection with the runes a little bit more, and you want to spend a little bit more time with each rune, perhaps journeying with it yourself and getting to know it a little bit better. Or you might be working with a rune of the month, which is what we do. It's one of the things that I encourage for those of you who are members of Suna's Star Wheel, my subscription. So a year-long subscription where we go into a lot more depth about the planetary movements and how you can work with them, and I provide you with meditations to support you in connecting with the energies of the lunar cycle. Talking of the lunar cycle, we are in our waning moon phase now. So we will be having the new moon next Tuesday. So before we go any further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you know what's going to be happening over the course of the coming lunar cycle, because it's a little bit different from our normal cycle, because we have Yule or Christmas or various different celebrations. So we're going to be shaking it up a little bit, which is always a nice thing to do, I feel. It's almost like composting the energy of the way that we roll a little bit and then launching into something new when the new moon comes in January. So next Monday on the 11th, I'm going to do a session for you specifically on rest and replenishment. That's the theme for our lunar cycle ahead. So I'm looking at rest and replenishment, and we will have our stay and play session. So that will be when I invite you to bring your runes for the month ahead, because we're not going to do the stay and play sessions in the later sessions, because I'm not going to be doing all of them because of the winter break, and we're not going to be doing the astrological pieces either. But you don't need to worry, because if you have your Suna Star Wheel subscription, you will get all of that anyway. So just to be aware of that, we're going to do rest and replenishment next week, next Monday, and then we're going to do some lovely stay and play. Who knows? Maybe I'll manage to do a lot more readings, because we'll be focusing on that for the month ahead. And I'd really love to know how that works for you as well, using the sort of new moon energy to do a little bit more of that stay and play piece. Then on the 18th, I will still be here, but we will be doing a deep dive into birth runes. So I'm going to be talking you through working with your birth runes, how powerful it can be, how to get started, what resources are available to you. I know that there are some of you who come here to Magic in Mind who have gone all the way through that birth runes process with me and in the birth runes soul journey group. And there are also people here who are like, birth runes? What are birth runes? So we'll be talking about that and looking at the potency of working with your birth runes and why it's such a powerful system to work with. Then 25th, Christmas Day is a family day for me. So I do take it as holiday, so I won't be here. But I am going to tell you about what else is going to be available to you in the Hearthspace group through the period, so do not worry about that. So there's going to be no Magic in Mind on the 25th and no Magic in Mind on the 1st, which is New Year's Day. And then on the 8th of January, we will start a brand new cycle. We're going to be perhaps working in a slightly different way. I'm feeling into that at the moment, what's going to be coming. I'm feeling the whole new cycle for 2024 and what's coming there. Having said that, I am putting together lots of goodies for you through this winter season, supporting that rest and replenishment cycle, giving you lots of little resources that you can use, and some of those will be paid and some of those will be free. My aim is to give you something that you can dip into the hearth space and find like every day through the course of that lunar cycle, as well as some really lovely offers, which some of you will have seen in the newsletter that went out I think a couple of weeks ago, but I'll be bringing those back up to the surface for you as a reminder of what is available to you. So I'm really excited about this new moon cycle in December. Let's have a look what people are saying. Hi Suki, lovely to see you. Morning. And Erica, hi Erica, lovely to see you. Lots of Mother Hulda snow. Oh, lovely Mother Hulda snow, how beautiful. And you've got Feyu, haven't you, Erica, for the for your rune. Let me just make a note of that. Like I say, it's a little bit easier for me if you share your rune when we get to the stay and play bit, but you know, I'm not going to chuck you out if you do it a bit early. I will try and remember them, but if I forget the ones that you share earlier, just remind me, just pop it into the chat box. Again, Carol, you've got Ansie's, lovely to see you, Carol. Good evening to you, in fact. And it's one of the things I love about this half space community, which I think is a landscape of connection which is very different to the landscape of connections that our ancestors had. And it's, I think, one of the reasons why we have to keep on evolving and rebirthing our spiritual frameworks, our ritual frameworks, our modes of connection, is because they need to interweave with and align with what's happening in the physical world around us as well. So, you know, isn't the internet an amazing thing? And Suki says, thank you for all you do. Oh, thank you, Suki. Is waning moon when we seek to release? Yes, it is when we seek to release what is no longer serving us. So if you are in Suna's Star Wheel, you will have the Wild Voice writing piece. It's a bit more of a gentler. It's not as lengthy as the new moon and the full moon pieces, but it is that ebbing away, releasing energy. It can also be about gratitude. You know, I'm feeling like immense gratitude today. I had some really, really good news this morning, which everything else just seemed better in life. You know, when you really allow yourself to feel into that place of gratitude and thanks, everything else just seems easier and better at that point. So yes, there's a releasing, a sort of saying I'm letting go for, but there's also a gratitude that you can give through that time as well, which then helps us to be ready for the lunar cycle to come. So thank you, Suki. Very nice question there for people who might not use the lunar cycle as frequently, or just want that energy that to be held for them. So let's have a little feel into the balanced sage. So as I said, this is the last of our Magic in Minds where we're going to be looking at the balanced sage. And we talked about the power of the sage, but as a reminder for you, we talked about it last week. There are, for me, like 4 primary elements of the sage self that I really feel need to be reclaimed, not just individually for us, but collectively for us at this point, because a very specific form of the sage is dominant in our society at the moment, which can make it quite difficult for us to fully express our sage energy. So for those of us who are in sage energy, we need that reclaiming process to be able to stand fully in our power around that, or at least that's been my experience. So the 4 elements of sage are the landscaping of memory. And I'd like you to think here about the Nornir. So in the northern tradition, the Nornir are the fates, and the Nornir, this is the Nornir with the capital N, Urd, Vartandi and Skuld. So they are the Norns of that which was, that which is, and that which must be. There are other Nornir as well with a little n, who you might think about as being the assistants. And we have our own personal Nornir, which we'll talk about more when we do our birth runes live, who are there with us and they support us in fulfilling our strongest destiny, in sometimes they put things in our path that we're like, really, but to help us to evolve, let's say. So the Nornir, we don't always experience them as being the most like benevolent, loving, we're here to protect you and nurture you, because they're here to help us to grow. And the Nornir with the big N's are there to help us with, they're there to help us collectively. So they will look for people in the world like you, fabulous, wonderful people, who are brave and strong and compassionate and powerful, and willing to make a difference, willing to step up and to make difficult decisions and to do the things that are tough, and they will call us out on that. They will say, How do you move through this? How do you become more than you already are? Bear with me one moment. I am becoming more than I already am by reordering my antihistamines, my very tiny microdose of antihistamines, which I have run out of. So one moment. Haven't managed to conquer my allergy to life yet. I think just the general world around us, the pollutants and things like that. So it will be coming. Where was I? Yes, Nornir with the capital N, and then Nornir with the small n. So the Nornir live at Urthusbrunn, the Well of Weird, and it is said that they carve runes into the trunk of the world tree. They are lawmakers. They make laws, they make rules, they carve fate. But it's not just as simple as that. We also have Forthandi, the Norn of the present, who is at her great loom, weaving the tapestry of being, which is more fluid in many ways. And this is the interplay between Orlog and Weird, which we're not going to discuss today, but those two concepts are important in the Northern tradition, sort of slightly more fixed and slightly more fluid flow of fate. And they are also, Urt in particular, you normally see her coming and she gathers the white clay from the Well of Weird and she smooths it upon the trunk of the world tree, and there's a healing action to this. And the waters of the Well of Weird also move, they form, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to be able to find it. In the night, they rise up, they form dew upon the trunk of the world tree, and then that trickles down and there is a healing motion that takes place there. And then we have Skuld, the Norn of that which must be, and she is always often seen as wielding a knife. So she's not just about, right, the pattern is this must happen. She also releases and cuts. And you're talking about the waning moon, Suki. Skuld is a really good deity to work with through the waning moon, to say, what do I need to release? What do I need to cut away in order to be ready for the coming cycle? If you think about the cycle of the year, the winter period is often considered to be like the waning moon period and the dark moon period, when we let go of the energy of the old year. Leaves come off the trees, the sap goes inside the trees, the cold comes, it kills all of the bacteria and the fungi and the disease that would otherwise, outbalance what's the growth that's trying to happen, kills all of that away, and then the new year births after that point. So we're doing that here. Just a chance here, I've got my very lovely obsidian knife here, which I often work with Skuld. It's just on my altar there, so I would show that to you as here right now. I love it very much. So that's the Nornir. So this point about landscaping memory is that the sage in their true power isn't doing what we're often taught that we need to do, which is to preserve and repeat that which we have been taught. The true sage is curating and tending, not just like getting rid of everything, but doing that work like the Nornir of doing, of saying what needs to be cut away or changed or evolved in some way. Then the second skill of the sage is that shaping of knowledge. And again, you can see we've got memory, and think about Odin's Raven, Munin. And then we have the shaping of knowledge, which he has his Raven Hugin, who is the Raven of Thought. And again, notice that this is an active thing. This is why with the seer, you'll notice that I talk about intuition, I talk about instinct, I talk about discernment, I talk about sensing as being those major skill sets. With the sage, I don't just talk about memory, knowledge, expression, and ritual, because the sage needs to reclaim the active part of the self. It's incredibly important in our society at the moment. So shaping knowledge, connecting through expression. So the sage has the power of expression, the power of communication. If you think about the runes, they are a mode of communication. They are a mode of creating story. They are a mode of sharing the rules of society, of creating our social fabric, which in my view at this point needs some work. And therefore that piece around connecting through expression becomes important. What is the purpose of our expression? Is it simply to preserve and repeat? Or is it to support that landscaping, that shaping, that connecting with another, connecting with the other, stopping us from projecting everything that's wrong in the world onto somebody else, and all of the things that happen when we do that? And then finally, practicing ritual. And you'll notice that it's not just ritual, it is practicing ritual. And I think that all of the word practice there is important in that it brings in the activity of ritual. It's not enough to just sort of think about the ritual, but also practicing. It's almost like, because the sage can have the shadow sage can have a real struggle with perfectionism. It's got to be absolutely right. We think about practicing here as being practicing through play, going, oh, I'm going to do it this time round, and then the next time round I'm going to try it again, and I might tweak something if it goes a little bit wrong. And this is when we start to, not wrong, that's a wrong word actually, I should say, that I could do differently. And this is important for the sage. Now, this is the inner landscape of the sage and the skill set of the sage. But what you will have noticed is, because I've got that action word behind each of the realms of the sage, so the landscaping, the shaping, the connecting, the practicing, for the sage, that brings in the other aspects of the magical self, which the sage and our society in general needs right now. You'll know, if you come to awaken, that I always talk about the sage as being the foundation stone of our knowledge. And it is. We need knowledge. We need memory. We need knowledge. We need expression. We need ritual. We need those things. The sage keeps everything going. Otherwise, there's no legacy. We're starting everything from scratch all over again. And the sage needs that. But the sage needs, in order to be in the space where we are able to make an improvement to the world, to do better in the world right now, the other parts of the magical self. So if you are coming to the Reclaim the Sage retreat, which I can highly recommend, it is tomorrow, we will be working on those 4 areas. We will be exploring those 4 areas. We will be doing very much energetic work tomorrow. So it's feeling into story and allowing the full and authentic expression of your sage self to come through with your wild voice. It is an exploration of those 4 areas, and then we do a soul retrieval process, or a power retrieval process. I just want more power retrieval, really. Sometimes soul retrieval work comes through as well, for this part of you, for this sage part of you. And particularly, I think, for the sage, those parts that take us beyond preserving and repeating into the true functioning of the sage. So that's what we will be doing at the Reclaim Your Magic, the Sage retreat tomorrow. Now, what I'm going to talk about here in terms of balancing comes in the aspect of the fuller program, of which each of the Reclaim retreats is part of the fuller program called Amplify Your Magic. But let me just give you a little bit of an overview. So when the sage is working well with the magician, then that action of shaping, landscaping, expressing, practicing becomes easier and more powerful, because that's the job of the magician. So the magician supports the sage in all of those action-based activities to actually make a difference in the world, to turn thought, realm of the sage, into action. The healer supports a reshaping, a tending, a nurturing. This is a little bit more like Urd. So if you think about the magician, might be the one who carves the runes. The sage says, okay, these are the rules. This is how it needs to be preserved. This isn't what needs to happen. The magician carves the runes. The healer comes as Urd with the white clay, smooths those bits where maybe society has changed. Maybe our needs have changed in some way. And the healer is sensitive to that reshaping, to that tending, to that connection piece with others as well, to that, okay, well, this was shaped with these people in mind, but how does it work with these people? They do that active peace weaving and nurturing, all of that piece around connection with what's actually happening, and that ability to adapt and change and what's the word I'm looking for, to flow a bit more. So you might think about Frithandi with her loom as well, maybe just going back and checking the little different bits of the weaving there, and reordering the pattern, not the pattern, the colours within that, and going on, the thread needs to be tightened there or loosened there. She will be doing all of that work with the healer. Then we have the mystic. So the mystic partners with the sage, because the sage is very much in the based in the past and the what is here, what's been shaped by the past. The mystic connects with the future. So the mystic is vital for that piece around reimagining, evolving, transforming, changing. The mystic connects with things that are not currently part of the reality, that is the realm of the sage, and says this too is possible. And the mystic needs the sage to help to communicate and express that in the world, and needs the magician to help to make that happen. But the realm of the imagination is so much a part of the mystic. I know Erica, who's on the live right now, she had a really beautiful piece by Michael Mead. Erica, I can't remember if you shared it on your personal feed or in the half space now. I have to have a look and see, because it was wonderful, and it was just such a beautiful explanation of the power of the imagination and why it's so important right now. So that ability for the sage to partner with the mystic is incredibly important and incredibly powerful for us. And then finally we have the seer. And the seer is the part of us that supports the act of choosing, of deciding, of discernment, and of sensing that is beyond language. So there's almost like two functions that are really important for us. This partnership with the sage and the seer. So the sage says the things that it is possible to communicate this because somebody else has a shared language, this shared language with me. But a shared language is evolving all of the time, and partially that's the mystic saying go in this direction, go here, but partially it's the seer feeling into the present reality that is beyond language, the language of the body, the language of instinct, the language of intuition. The sage can get really overwhelmed with all of the stuff that's there, particularly now. You can go on the internet and you can find any piece of information anywhere to justify the opinion that you hold in the present moment, whether it is good or bad. And the seer is the part of you that is connected right down into your belly roots that says, that's the truth for me. So why it's so important that each of these parts of our magical self is nurtured and supported by the others, because that is when we step into our true power. So that piece around the balanced sage, very, very important at this time. And I hope that that's given you a little bit of an overview. I'm really excited to see those of you tomorrow who have signed up for Reclaim. I should also say, by the way, that it is possible to attend the Reclaim retreats using the recording, but you must have signed up in advance, or I don't make them available as recordings afterwards, because I'm supporting an energetic power retrieval process. The space is held intentionally for everyone who's signed up to the retreat. So you can take part via a recording, but you can't sign up afterwards. So if you're thinking, oh, that sounds interesting and that sounds like I would like to do it, you have until like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock maybe tomorrow to do that. I wouldn't leave it that late though, because technology sometimes, want to make sure that you get into the room. Fabulous. Okay, Erica, you said you shared it on the half space. Brilliant, thank you. I thought you had, but I didn't want to say you definitely did. It was lovely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate it for those of you who do come and bring what has inspired you to the half space to share. That piece around collective wisdom, so important. I'm not going to go off on that tangent right now. I shall do that another time. Note to self to do that another time. Okay, so let's look at our planetary movements, and then we will do our stay and play piece. So we have got 3 planetary movements that we're going to be feeling into through the course of this week. The first one's coming on the 5th of December. So tomorrow, Tier's chariot, which is the equivalent of Mars. So it's this chariot of action, of direction, of focus. It's quite a masculine energy. It is not entirely masculine, just to be very, very clear. I don't think any of the planets really are, or any of these deities really are, to be honest. But Tyr brings that sort of active principle. If you think about it with his Tewaz rune, which I think we've already covered, so I probably don't have it here in my cards. It looks like an arrow, essentially, like a little arrow button. It says this way, go this way. Connects us with our own truth. It pulls us into integrity around that. So it is a bit different to the martial energy, which can be quite fiery and quite warlike in many ways. One of the things I like about Tyr, and why I think he's so important for us in these times as well, is that he evolved from being a sovereign to being a warrior to being a priest. And I think there is a real message in there, certainly a message for me, around where Tyr thinks we should be as a human species at this time. That the place where the action should be happening is in our spirituality, an individual spirituality, and like moving forward on that way. And we should have become a species who is past the desire or need to solve our problems through war. I'm not going to go off on that tangent at this point, but I'm feeling that really strongly, and I know that that's something that is very present for a lot of people in a lot of communities that I'm a member of at the moment. Tyr in Isa. So Isa is the rune of ice. It's the rune of stillness. And what Tyr says to us is the space between the old self and the present self and the self that we are becoming recedes in between the heartbeat of each moment until we are all. And it is that sense in which Tyr almost says, in order to be the priest self that I am now, to be this connected, magical being that I am now, I must retain a continual connection to who I was before, to when I was a god of war, and to when I was the god who was in charge and king. I need to retain those learnings, but recognize that they are not all that I am, and that they are not all that I might become. There's moments where we step into meditation. The Isa is the rune of the ice. Incredibly powerful time to be doing meditative work, to be doing embracing all the parts that are you, and to be allowing those parts of you that feel uncomfortable and difficult to give them space, to say what they need to say to you. Those feelings that we can have of we can get a powerful, really powerful positive emotion followed quite quickly by a quite powerful negative emotion, and it's because we've opened up a channel, and we're like, this channel comes through. We can't have just the positive sides of our emotions without the negative ones as well. And they're not really negative, they're just uncomfortable to us. And it's that ability to sit with ourselves in our entirety, which Tyr is talking about at this moment. And so he's saying to us, this can feel like a passive process. And he's saying it's not a passive process. It's an active process. And I think this is something that will come up more strongly. I'm doing an interview in the Hearth Space, beautiful Tanya Forgan, who's going to come. She's a deep rest facilitator and mentor, and I'm going to be doing a live in the Hearth Space with her later today. I think it's 8 o'clock. I can't remember if it's 8 o'clock or 8:30, but it's advertised in the Hearth Space. You can see it there. And we're going to be talking about this, and I think it's important for us to embrace the concept of deep rest as being an active process, even though it's in the plane of Isa in this time. So that is happening tomorrow. So we have that energy available to us to do that. We're moving out of the energy of North, is the sort of quite fire, must do, energy, into Isa, must be. It's a different type of energy. Then on the 10th, Odin's chariot is going to move into retreat. It's going into retreat, which means that pretty much he's gearing up to going into retreat right now. And what that means is that the influence of Odin, this sort of planning, communicating, sovereign, we need to do this, we need to do that, a very much connection with purpose as well can come through quite strongly. That energy is further away. It's like Odin has left the building, people. He's left the throne. Very much in keeping actually with what happens anyway during the winter time. So in the winter time, we are told that Ul, the hunter god, comes and takes the throne from Odin for a short period of time. We're in Ul's hall, right now. So he comes and he takes that throne, and so Odin is already in retreat, and now his planet is going into retreat. So it could be, again, if there are things that you want to get done through this period of time, bearing in mind that we've already got Tyr's chariot and Isa, which is going to make them perhaps a little bit harder unless we're doing our active rest as well. Odin is really saying these are difficult times for having moments of doing, because these times are designed for moments of being. I was working with one of my coaching clients on this, and designing or curating her rituals and her working practices, and the fact that our modern working practices really clash with the energetic. They just don't align with what's happening energetically where we are on the land or in the runic wheel, and so that can be quite tough. And it's just that recognition of that. So go easy on yourself. And Odin says, I don't mind. He says, I don't mind if you blame me, if your comms go down or your tech doesn't work or your plans go wrong. But what he would like us to do is to recognize, how can I make more space for the energy of being through this period of time. And then finally we have Frigg is moving into Hagala, so she's moving on the 11th, and this is slightly different energy, but we can still feel into it. Frigg does invite us into a doingness, and I think that it's almost Frigg at the moment. She's just that little bit ahead, and she can sometimes be that little bit ahead. She's sort of scouting out where we need to go. But what she says is, and I think it's almost that bridge between being and doing. When we've gone inside, we've sort of taken that retreat moment inside, and then we emerge with all these new ideas, and we're in a slightly different mode of being, and we're like, hello world, I am Maggie Rose Cunningham, Mark 27.3, hello, and then we try and do in Maggie Rose Cunningham, Mark 27.3, and it doesn't always work, because I'm used to Maggie Rose Cunningham, Mark 27.2. I don't know why I chose 27. I think that's because I could have quite liked to stop at that age. 27 was a good year. But yeah, I'm not 27, just to be really clear. But that'd be nice. And I just lost myself entirely in the thought of what would be possible for myself if I was 27. I'm going to stop that now. Maybe that will be my 27.3 will be a reawakening of my 27-year-old self. But the point is, just to get back to the point, apologies everybody, just gone off on a totally different tangent. Now, Frigg says, trying as you is more important than succeeding as someone else. Trying as you is more important than succeeding as someone else. What Frigg says is, you have got the rest of 2024 to master your version of Maggie Rose Cunningham 27.3. I can't remember which point I was now. Now, we have these moments of rebirth, and I can feel it so strongly. And I was talking to my Yggdrasil's Path cohort, taking this really deep dive into working with the Northern Tradition World Tree, journeying upon it, receiving healing from it, finding places of wisdom within it. And I know we were talking about how many people are experiencing a real sense of like shedding and the uncomfortableness of shedding and this rebirth time. So the winter time is an incredibly powerful time for that, but it's more than that somehow. And it's that recognition that we have to practice. We're talking about the sage, and the challenge with the sage is that the sage wants to get it right straight away, because that's what we've been taught is the right thing to do, isn't it? We're assessed. Hi Crystal, lovely to see you. Hi Maggie, lovely to see you too. We are taught that we learn something and then we're assessed on it, and we either pass or we fail. That's how we're educated in our schools. That is not life, and I think that's important for the sage. The sage has really taken that on board, the sort of stereotype of the sage, not the magical self of the sage. The stereotype of the sage has taken that on board. I have to get it right. And Frigg is saying, give yourself full permission to get it wrong as many times as you want to. And every time you do it, I'm going to be there as your champion in the background going, go! You're doing brilliantly! Keep trying! So she's there. She's our personal cheerleader through this period of time. So that's from the 11th. Okay, that's where we are with our planetary movements. Oh, that's fun, wasn't it? I enjoyed that one. So let me see what runes you have got. So let's go back to my sheet. Where is my sheet? I picked up a new piece of paper. We've got Erica with Faye. We've got Carol with Ansu's. We've got Maggie's got Iwas. Maggie says Iwas again. Iwas for Maggie. Lovely. So please do share your runes. I'm going to draw 3 runes from my pack here now as to which runes want to come out. I can feel the Issa rune. We've talked a little bit about the Issa rune, but I can feel that Issa rune coming and wanting to have a little bit of a chat. I really thought we'd done Issa last week. I don't know what's happened. We're doing Ansu's already, aren't we? So Ansu's wanted to chat, so that's good. Uruz wants to chat. We've got Feyu in there as well. Excellent. And let's leave a wild card in case anybody else has runes that they want, and we'll come back to them. So let's have a little bit of a look at Issa, because we've already discussed Issa a little bit, and yeah, that feels right to be able to feel into Issa at this point. So I mentioned this, that Issa is like the rune of stillness. Now Issa for me is also that it's a bridge, when it's like that shape, it's literally like an ice bridge, and the rune poem talks about it being an ice bridge. And for me, when the rune poem talks about Issa as the ice bridge, I often think about the sage self who knows the terrain. It's like I can imagine what a snowy terrain might look like with an ice bridge in front of me, and I can describe it, and I can tell you what the molecules, I don't know whether there's molecules or not, what the crystallized, like water form, what happens to H2O, and then it's in its solid form, and I can, all of that stuff the sage can do. But the Aesop rune poem talks about the blind needing to be led. And essentially, if we don't have access to our seer, then we are blind. And so this connection with the seer self is what comes through for me with Isa, because then the sage can cross that bridge, because it's not enough to be able to describe the bridge or know its individual components, or to break it down into those different little parts. It's not enough for the mystic to imagine it, or the magician to say, well, I could build one, I'm absolutely sure I could, or the healer to say, I think it's a bit broken, I can mend it. The seer goes, we're going to cross it. We're going to cross it. And the seer uses all of the senses to do that. Now, I remember doing an ice walk. I was absolutely petrified. I didn't know I was going to go here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go into this story. Okay. I went to Iceland in August 2022 with very dear friends. And I'm going to tell you, I was absolutely petrified. I wasn't expecting to go on this climbing up a glacier. And I did not realise how much residual fear there was in my body from when I had arthritis. And I remember walking over the ice with crutches and then with my walking stick, and just feeling every step my jaw would tighten, because I would imagine myself falling. And at that point, if I even bumped a joint, a tiny amount, it would, I didn't need to be a bruise, it didn't need to be anything, it would just blow up, it would just balloon up. I was so sensitive to any knock or bang that I was afraid, incredibly afraid. And I must have been 44 at the time, and I started my recovery from my arthritis when I was 27, which is why Maggie, 27 was a good year. That's when I started my recovery process. So I've been recovering for a long time, but I hadn't realised how little I had recovered, and I had set in my mind the goal that I was going to walk up Glastonbury Tor. And I measured my healing journey each year by my ability to walk up Glastonbury Tor. And I started off walking up Glastonbury Tor backwards on crutches, because I couldn't hold my weight properly walking forwards. And that improved, and that improved. And I also set myself a goal that I wanted to tap dance again, which I did. I got myself some tap shoes. I did some tap dancing. So I'd essentially met the goals that I had set for myself as to what recovery would mean for me. And then I'd never moved them. I hadn't moved them since that point. And when I stood there being offered these special boots and the crampons and the little stick thing with the hook on it and my hard hat and stuff like that, and I saw the ice, I was so petrified. I literally just sat in the coach with tears just pouring down my face. There was no sound, just crying, and it just wouldn't stop. And then the guide, he was brilliant. He was like, you've got this, you're going to be great, and he just said it he was just so clear about it. And he was like, this is where you're going to put your centre of gravity and all of this stuff, which I had walking lessons, but no one told me about centre of gravity and things like that. And he was just like, this is where you're going to look with your eyes. And he was my guide over the ice, in that moment. He was my seer self. And the Isa is all about that. It's saying you need to access the seer, and it might not be your seer, Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's what, I just limited myself entirely because my sage has made up a story, which means that when I've learned to tap dance and I can climb up Glastonbury Tor again, it means that I'm healed. That was my sage. My seer probably would have told me, no, there's loads of stuff that you can do, but I wasn't listening. But when I came to the point of going, I was like, I'm going to do it. That's as far as my seer could take me. I'm going to do it. But I was absolutely petrified, like I say, and I needed a guide. So Isa is calling into that. That was quite a long one, but I think it was important. It's important. I hope that was a helpful story for you. So where in your life have you created a story for yourself about having reached the limits of your own potential? And what can you do in order to connect with the seer inside or the seer outside to support you in moving beyond that limit and finding where you're going next? When I got to the top of that glacier, it was amazing. Suki, you've got Ansus. Lisa, you've got Tewaz. Let's put Lisa in there with Tewaz as well. Okay, so let's feel into Feu. Erica's lovely Feu. Very different energy to Isa. So we had Isa, which is the rune of ice, and the Feu. Now, when I feel into Isa, I can feel that brittleness. Maybe it's that sort of the bones thing. It all sort of came together for me. This brittle possibility of breaking, not stretching past your strength. It is all very Isa. Isa is like, stay as you are, stay as you are. It does that, and we need to be led across it in order to find the way forward. But Feu is fluid and warm and nourishing and nurturing, and that place where all of the outside stuff that feels hard and difficult is almost stripped away. It's like a baby being held in the arms of the mother, or us being held in the embrace of old Humla, the primal cow who was set to nurture all beings indiscriminately. And it is this place with the Feu energy of recognizing the life force and the abundance energy, which includes wealth, but it also includes food, happiness, luck, joy, fulfillment, all of the good stuff. Feu wants to flow. It wants to flow. And what it says is that we, through our carving of our runes, if you think about the sage self, we carve these runes, which are the stories of our lives, which sometimes are our stories, sometimes they're our parents' stories, our ancestral stories, the stories of the school that we went to, the job that we were in. All of these become written within us, and they guide and direct the flow of the Feu energy. And the Feu energy doesn't say, they're a bad person, they don't deserve to have this, or they don't deserve. No, it doesn't. It just flows where it's directed to. And am I saying that it's easy to release those stories? No, I'm not saying that. But it is possible. The Feu rune supports us in that. Just having a bit of my slightly lukewarm tea now. So working with the Feu rune is a different form of moving past our own limitations. It's a very kind rune. If you're going to work with your Isa rune, you're going to work with the rune of the realm of ice, which we did on Adrazel's Path last week, you must include some work with one of the fire runes or fire form of some description, because we're just not meant to be in that place of cold for too long. And this is, I think, again, a lesson for us in terms of the sage self, that when we become stuck in the preserving, stagnating, static energy, we need that flow of the other parts of the magical self to move through us. So we'll work with the Feu rune to support that flow. It's a beautiful rune for healing as well. If you are struggling with any of that, accessing luck, life force, energy, wealth, great rune to work with, or to work with somebody else to support you in that healing journey. So that's our Feu rune. Suki, you had the Ansu's rune, didn't you? Here we go with the Ansu's rune. So I really love the Feu rune and the Ansu's rune. Note here how the Feu rune is Freya's rune. It's right at the beginning of the Futhark. It's the patron of the first 8, with this old Humla energy of the primal mother and luck. Life force and magical energy as well comes through. And then the 4th rune is Ansu's, and you'll notice that Feu points up and Ansu's points down. They're very much in relationship with each other. Ansu's is a different form of magical energy, and it is very much associated with the sage. And what's important with the Ansu's rune is that it does represent this ability to provide order and structure and to carve your runes, but it also represents the wild, ecstatic ability to channel story, to connect with the seer, to connect with the magician. So it's a beautiful rune to work with, to connect with the other parts of the magical self and to draw them in to the sage, and to recognize, it's very important for us not to denigrate or downplay the power and the potency of the sage. The reason I say that is because, it used to be the case that if you could read or write, bear with me one more moment while I blow my nose again. We've almost normalised the power of the sage, because everybody is expected to read or write today, regardless of the fact that reading or writing is not always that easy. Or that there are many skills out there in the world that don't actually require us to have this sort of amazing academic mastery. We've made that mastery of reading and writing, the selection criteria for life in many ways, which I'm not sure is always the best of things. And I say that as somebody who, I was very lucky. I enjoyed reading and writing, and I enjoyed academic environment. But even I could feel the limitation of that. And so that ability to access that wildness and to recognise that the power of the shaping, the connecting, all of those active parts, they are parts of the sage energy. They are simply parts of the sage energy that we have been squashing for a long time. And so we are relying on the other 4 parts of the magical identity to help to connect with that. So if we have the power of the sage, if we've done our reclaiming work, if we've done our power retrieval work, then what we want to do is to move into the expressing part. How do I go out there and do my landscaping of memory, my shaping of knowledge? How do I actually bring that out into the world? And our sages need that. They need us to support them in that. And the Ansus rune is an incredibly powerful access point rune for doing that. So if you have your Ansus rune at the moment, you want to be thinking about not just about ordering or structuring or learning or repeating, or even about receiving. Loads of us, we do fabulous, wonderful journaling, meditation work, but also about expressing, bringing it back out into the world. If you do not have a safe space to voice the power of your true and authentic self, then come to one of my Reclaim retreats. I really, really beg you. Such a beautiful space to be heard in who you are in that moment, and to have an experience of what it's like to have your wild voice, in this case, received in a safe space. I will stop evangelizing. There we go. So, Ansus for you. I can feel that, Krista. You've got which I'm thinking is Urus, just in one of the younger Futharks. So we're going to do Urus here. And I think maybe we're doing Urus because, Urus just wanted to come and chat. And so you've been a lot on talking about words and things like that. Let's look at Urus, which is a primal energy. So we have in the younger Futhark, in the first 8, Feyu, Urus, Thurisaz is in there as well, and Ansus. They're the first 4 runes. So Urus wanted to come and have a little bit of a chat, and it's that primal life force energy. I think it's recognising the strength and hope and optimism and belief and faith that the sage self needs in the face of what is a very difficult world for us to live in right now. Those of us who are very energetically aware or empathic, who have a great deal of compassion, actually connecting in to what we are feeling and everything that is going on around us can be incredibly, incredibly difficult. And the Urus wants to come along and says, you are not alone in that. You remember I talked about Tyr's Chariot and Issa and that experience of the all and oneness, and we were talking about that as being who you were, who you are, and who you will become. Urus invites a deeper connection. It says that your body is made of star stuff. It is made of water that is I can't remember how much percentage of it. It's about 30%, maybe even more, that is older than the solar system itself. The water that's in your body is as old as the solar system, and a part of it is older. Urus is a container. If you put it this way, it's a container. Contains and holds the magic. Your body is a wonderful container. In the northern tradition, it's part of the soul. It's not, you don't like have a little soul and it tootles along and it goes, oh, here's a convenient body. I will now get into the body, be in the body for the lifetime, and then depart from the body. The body is part of the soul. But it's also, it's a strong, containing, shaping part of the soul that it becomes the vessel for our magic, for the water flowing through us. So when you're feeling that sense of overwhelm, it's saying, get back out in nature, connect with the body. Right? Remember that you're not alone. You are a walking part of the universe. And therefore you are part of and supported by the universe. Spend some time feeling the huge body of the earth beneath you, and know that you are a part of it, is what the Uruz rune is calling in for us at the moment. Erica, I'm glad that you love Old Humla's embrace and the motherly love through her milk. Yeah, it's it reminds me actually of the myths. It's Hera, the Greek goddess. I don't know why it took me so long to decide. Juno, Roman goddess. There is these old goddess myths. She's said to like make the Milky Way with her breast milk. I think it's Zeus brings Hercules to suckle on her so that he will be blessed by her milk, and then she wakes up and she's like, what? She is not like old Humla nurturing everything indiscriminately. She's going, that is not my child, that is your child. And Milky Way is said to be made from that from her breast milk. And I was thinking about old Humla as being like sort of everything, that nurturing life force energy is in the stars, and it's in us as well with the Feiyu rune. And then the Uruz rune is that shaping, forming container that life needs. Those two forces, doesn't it? It needs those two forces, force and form, coming together in Feiyu and Uruz. Who else did we have? We had Teiwaz, didn't we, with Lisa? So let's look at Teiwaz, then we're going to look at Iwaz with Maggie, and then we'll see where we are, because I've been really poor at noting which runes we are doing. We've done Feiyu, we've done Iwaz, okay. Here we go, we've done Isa, haven't we? So yes, those are with the last ones we're going to do. So we're going to do Teiwaz and we're going to do Iwaz, and we'll be done. Neither of them are in the pack here, so you're going to have to imagine the Teiwaz rune with the little arrow there. So Lisa, for you with your Teiwaz rune, we really talked about Teiwaz in terms of Tyr and that patronage of Tyr at this point. And I think for me there is that sense of the relationship between the arrow and the archer is what comes through for me, and that the arrow is essentially a powerless object, whatever, even though the craftsperson, let's say, forged the arrow with a certain intention and then gave it to the archer, so they gave the power to the archer, and it is the archer's that moment where the archer summons all of who they are, into that moment where they say, and now. And it is again that partnership between the knowledge and the experience of the sage, everything that you've been taught about what it means to be a good archer, accessing the seer who says, now's the moment to let go. It's often actually a little bit before the moment when you imagine a deer running through the woods there. You don't wait and then aim at the deer as it's going. If it's moving, you aim a little bit ahead of it. It's the seer who helps you to do that. So it is about not being forced into action until you have had the moment of pause that you need. If anyone's sort of saying, oh, you need to make a decision now, or what do you think about this, or what do you think about that, it's being able to say, one of the most powerful things I talk about with my clients when they say, I really feel they've got all this pressure to do this and to do this and to do this, and I say, there's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, actually, what you've just sent to me is so important that I'm going to take the time to properly understand it and to come back to you with an answer that you deserve, rather than just thinking through in the moment. So it's, where can you say, I'm claiming the pause, I want the pause right now, I'm taking the pause right now, with your Teiwaz rune. And then finally, let's go to Maggie. I'm going to see if I can find the Iwaz rune here in amongst the remainder of the pack, because they're there. If I can find it, I'll show it to you all. So the Iwaz rune is the rune of the staff. So again, it's there's a stillness, and I quite like it because it's almost like a bridge between the Isa rune and the Teiwaz rune in some ways. Because it is the staff, it supports us, and we can stand and we can lean on it. Brings in that Feiyu energy we were talking about, of those moments when we need that magic, but it can also move us forward with the as we walk. It forms another point of security. It can also act as we were talking about finding support when we need it. So one of the things for me about making the ice walking safe was not just that I had someone who was like telling me how to hold my body and what to do, and making sure that the path was safe and looking ahead, and just assessing. I would just really, really trusted him. He was great. But one of the reasons I trusted him was because he gave me the right equipment. And we were so much safer because we had the right equipment. And we were hearing about people who, on the tour that we actually went on, we weren't supposed to go on that tour. We booked onto a different one. which was more volcanic, and it was more fire realm. And my fear was more of the ice. And the our tour was cancelled. We went on to the ice tour instead, and it was because the conditions were so bad. But some people were still taken by their tour companies up. And we heard stories about people, coming down like hours and hours and hours later, exhausted, freezing cold. They'd had a terrible time, and they didn't have the right equipment. They didn't have the right boots. Whereas our guide was like, right, he was looking at everyone, including me, because I didn't know I was going on a hike, who didn't have the right boots. And he's like, nope, not taking you. We're going to the depot. We're going to find you your right hiking boots. Now, this is eyewear. So this is about preparation. It's about saying, what tools do I need to support me on the journey? What do I need to support me on the journey? How am I going to be safe? All of that, like Boy Scout bit there, be prepared is what the Eyewear's Rune is saying at this point. You don't need to like rush in. We talk about Frigg's Chariot, and Candice, it's lovely to see you. I can see you've got Hagalaz. We've finished on our Rune Stay and Play section, but when you re-listen to the live, we talked about Frigg's Chariot in Hagalaz, so have a little listen to that. And Maggie, for you with the Eyewear's Rune, and anyone who gets the Eyewear's Rune, it is that sense of, yes, sometimes we need to step into courageous magic and take the risk. We need to risk failure. So much part of the evolution of the sage self, of claiming the power of the sage self, is to say, I'm going to step past that perfectionism. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to step past the imposter syndrome that society has placed upon me, because there is so much out there in the world and I think I need to know all of it. No one can know all of it. That we don't do it at all. Whereas actually sometimes it's about saying, okay, what's the support that I need in order to step into that courageous magic, to take those risks, to say, yes, I'm afraid. Who's going to be my guide? Who's going to help me? Who's going to support me through that? So that's your Eyewear's Rune. So as a reminder, before we finish, Magic in Mind will be in a different format through the next month. If you want all of your planetary movements and you are not already signed up to Suna's Star Wheel, now is the time to do it, because you will still get that through the course of this month. It's also a really good time to sign up to Suna's Star Wheel, because Lexi and I are planning some lovely new changes to it come January, which will include the price point will go up as well, because we're going to be including some extra other bits in it for you too, is the plan. At least, so it's a great time to sign up to it, so you can still get all of that with your planetary movements there. We are going to do our Stay and Play session on the new moon, so that will be next Monday, and then I have other sessions planned, and obviously I won't be here for Christmas Day and New Year's Day, which are both on a Monday this year, but there will be some lovely activities, things to do, resources, all of those sorts of things coming into the hearth space, plus the winter gifts that I've been preparing for you. I hope that those of you who have already signed up to Winter Nights have enjoyed or are about to enjoy our first tale with Hermod, that descent into the darkness, and the tale of the eight-legged horse. Yes, I'm really enjoying creating those tales for you. So that's our first paid gift, let's say. So there'll be lots of free stuff there for you as well. But yeah, I'm really enjoying doing Winter Nights this year, and I hope that you're enjoying that too. So there we are. It has been wonderful seeing all of you. Thank you so much to all of you who came live. If you have been watching the recording, please do #replay and let me know that you're here. Share your runes, share your takeaways. It's wonderful to see you. Have a magical, blessed, fabulous week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.